Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second last Biz Basics for 2021. It's a great thing that we're sort of getting to the end of the year, but it's been a great season, and I've actually really enjoyed some of the wonderful guests we've actually had on. Welcome to tonight's Biz Basics, and I'm a little bit excited about this one because obviously I have known Roger Larkin for a very long time. So to be able to share his knowledge with you and for you to get a better understanding of the type of relationship you should be having with your accountant, I think this is quite timely. Having observed the last 3 or 4 months here at Larkin Partners and the accountants talking to their clients, I think it's really important that you guys understand what you should be getting out of your relationship with your accountant. So let's kick it off with my quote. So the word accounting comes from the word accountability. So if you're going to be rich, you need to be accountable for your money. And that's a Robert Kiyosaki quote. So the best thing you can do for your small business is to actually work with your CPA accountant in an ongoing proactive basis. So find someone who is more than just your tax preparer. You really need a year-round trusted advisor. So in short, seeking out accountants just once a year during the busy season isn't the smartest strategy. Regular advice and contact is absolutely the key. But how do you know if they're the right one for you? So I want to introduce you to Roger Larkin, who founded Larkin Partners 21 years ago. And full disclosure, I was one of those founding clients. And now Cocoon has also merged with Larkin Partners so that the practice can offer a full and complete accounting and bookkeeping service to their clients. Roger has a Bachelor of Economics majoring in accounting and has had over 30 years of experience under his belt, working with all entity types. He has built a quality team of expert accountants and bookkeepers, including us, and based in Ivanhoe, all with the commitment of providing above and beyond services to Larkin partner clients. So welcome, Roger, and thanks for joining us today. Hello.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me on board. Pleasure
no problem. Yeah, great. So can you give me some background about the past 21 years for you?
Oh, look, at the start of GST in 2000, I decided to go out and buy a small parcel of fees. And since then, over 21 years, the company's grown to what it is today. That's been by a few mergers and acquisitions, but more importantly, by referrals from existing clients.
Excellent. And there's a reason for that. It's because you believe in service with the clients as well. So my focus as a business owner was to produce the best service offering I could get with as many clients on board as possible with a big enough margin to make a profit. Probably not very different than where many business owners actually focus their time at the moment. So had I given my accountant more of a thought, I probably would have seen more opportunities to reduce costs, invest my profits more efficiently, and ultimately make more of them, make more profits, that is. So does it make sense to consult with your accountant in an ongoing capacity?
Oh, yes, Julie, by always. You should always consult with your accountant, not just once a year, not just every 6 months. Ideally, you should be trying to do it quarterly or, more importantly, try and do it every month. That way you're liaising with your accountant so you get a more timely focus on advice and strategic advice of how you can obviously run your business to do lots of things, improve your bottom line and also grow your business, which is what all people in private enterprise want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So for many small business owners, the relationship they may have with their accountant is very transactional. So in other words, they meet with their accountant at year end to file their taxes and maybe on a quarterly basis to file their employee withholdings or pay their quarterly estimated income tax. So how can a small business owner initiate a consultative relationship with their accountant?
I think the best thing with say being an accountant or a client, you must have a two-way street with your accountant. You must be able to liaise with them. And to do that, either emails or on the telephone. So once a month, you're sitting down with your accountant, have a good chat with them and disclosing things that you're concerned about in your business. So as the accountant, you can hopefully lead them down the right path.
Yeah. We were having a chat earlier today where we both actually said the same thing, which was that we want to know big picture what our clients are actually doing so that we understand the advice that we're actually giving them. And I know that you, with your clients, like to know the nitty-gritty of exactly what they're doing, so that if you are actually watching an article in the newspaper, you know that you have a specific set of advice you then need to give to your clients. Is that challenging? This is a question from my field, by the way. Is that challenging when you've got clients from such a diverse range?
Oh, yeah, it's always challenging. But I think what happens with, because you become intimate with your client, you know exactly what they do. So if a piece of legislation comes out, say, for example, it's instant asset write-off, cash flow boost, carryback losses, these sort of things, you know in your mind straight away which clients that specific legislation will be deemed towards. So therefore, you can start to have that conversation with your client to say, look, this is what I think we now need to do to come to this result.
Yeah. And having seen that in action over the last couple of months, I have been fascinated to see the way that your team has been able to take some files that had not been looked at previously and then apply these benefits to them in this financial year that's just finished. And I have found that to be absolutely fascinating, because to me, it was like, why were they not being told that these were available to them sort of during the time when it was actually happening? So it's been fantastic to actually see what's been going on in that perspective. Now, we know that not every accountant will suit every business owner. So how can we be assured that we can find the right accountant that's the right person for our business and our job? So what are the key attributes a small business owner should be looking for when they choose an accountant?
I think the main thing they should be focused on is having an accountant that they can relate with. I have, for example, it's no use me speaking as an accountant at a high level towards a client if the client doesn't understand what I'm trying to relate to. So it becomes a two-way conversation between the client and the accountant of how I can relay information to the client in a terminology that they can understand.
Yeah. There was something you said to me earlier about stupid questions. What did you say to me about stupid questions?
Oh, look, I think a lot of clients may be intimidated by their accountant for some known reason, which they shouldn't be, because at the end of the day, we're providing a service to the client. So, but what I'm trying to say there is the client should be able to ask any question, whatever they like, to the accountant to ask for advice, even whether they may think it's a stupid question or not, because most of the time it's actually not a stupid question. Yeah. It's a way that they open up to their accountant to start a dialogue.
Yeah. I found it interesting too, having conversations with clients, just general chit chat. I find that you find out more about their business in a to and fro that you may not otherwise find out just from their numbers. I find that part of my role is their bookkeepers quite fascinating. Like, I was having another conversation with a client today and found out that she'd hired someone specifically to do a particular job related to human resources. Mm-hmm. And that person had done like the bare minimum and then walked out and left a mess. And because us as bookkeepers were then picking up that mess. Yep. But if I hadn't have been aware of that, I wouldn't have then turned around and said to her, don't pay that final bill that person has given you, because they haven't done what they said they were supposed to do. So it's that, I like that general chit chat. You get little snippets of information about their business and get to know them better, so that I then find that there are different things that snap onto their business that they probably wouldn't have otherwise thought of themselves.
No, what you're saying there is actually true. Yeah, an accountant could look at a set of books, and yes, there's a set of numbers there. It may show what the profit is, what we need to do for certain things. But you're right. For an accountant, must sit down with their client and have general conversation, because most of the time, they bring up a question that comes from left field that we should be there to answer, and that way you start to even learn more about what the client actually does, which gives you, in the end of the day, you can hopefully give better advice, because you get to understand more of what the client actually does.
Yeah, I love it. I do like that nitty-gritty bit. That makes me excited. Okay, so we've signed up with your team to do our accounts. What's the best way as business owners, or what is the best way we as business owners, can help your team as our accountants to have access to everything so that we can be more, your team can be more efficient and effective with our accounts.
Correct. Like the one good thing that accounting software has done in the last, say, 10 years is it's made everything instantaneous. Everything's in the cloud. We can get reliable data pretty much 3 days after month end, or if we want to, one of my team members can go into the cloud file, have a look at it, and we start to review the file. So from a business owner, I can't stress to them they must keep on top of their daily, say, monthly bookkeeping work, because that way the accountant can drill into their accounts and give more timely advice on where the business is heading or growing.
So based on the fact now that we've got live feeds and we've got the ability to have something like within 24, 48 hours of the stuff happening, maybe 72 over a weekend, what's an ideal time from, say, 30 June to potentially when a client who is fully cloud-based, I might add, so everything's ready to rock and roll, like what's the average time to get that sort of stuff processed and the return ready to be consulted with?
I say to all my A-class clients, try to get your stuff in for June quarter, get it in before when the BAS is due.
Yeah.
So if you do find any errors or misallocations in the file, all those things can be rectified and fixed before you lodge the final BAS. So look, realistically, I would have said by the end of, say, July.
Okay, cool.
That way gives my staff a good 2 weeks to work on the file and then get back to the client.
Good. And then, so the file is worked on and then certain things come out of that return. And then do you sit with the client and make a decision as to whether the return gets lodged then or if there's a delayed return, like the lodgement of the return?
Yep, correct. Well, majority of times the return may be delayed as if there is a large income tax bill to pay.
Yeah.
That's really the reason why it's delayed.
Yeah, and then that gives the client the opportunity to set aside those funds to pay it for when it actually hits the ATO.
Correct, which could be, for argument's sake, a big taxpayer, June of the following year, so they can start to prepare and plan for that.
Okay. Going on to that too, if we've got a client that is that does have a massive tax bill that is beyond their cash flow capability, at that time of lodgement, if it's in March, April, May of next year, are they in a position at that time too, even though it's a lodgement that's on the knocker, are they able to then put a payment plan in place if they don't have the cash flow to then pay it?
Yes, they always can. And look, cool. The days of the tax office beating down with a big stick to get the money out of you, that's not going on, which I've noticed over the last 2 to 3 years. So yes, as long as you're upfront with the tax office and you talk to them in a realistic way, yes, they'll always come to some sort of repayment plan.
Yeah. So
as long as you also, sorry there, Julie, is you pay all your other BASs and any other ISs on time.
Yeah, correct. So there's a good question. Would you recommend that a client makes contact with the tax office themselves, or would you recommend that they should go through their accountant, that it's more likely that the accountant will get a better outcome than the client themselves, do you think? Because the accountant understands the relationship with the ATO idea?
I would probably, yes, in my opinion, that's what I would do. You should always engage your professional advisor to have that conversation with the tax office, yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll keep that in the back of my mind. I do have a couple of clients who like to go to the tax office themselves, so I'll have a chat to them about that. Okay. So the tax return's been lodged. All of the documentation goes out to the client, the documentation goes out to the client first, and then it comes back signed, and that's when you lodge the tax return. So if a client hangs on to the return and you don't get the signed document back, you don't lodge that return. Is that the case?
Correct. We cannot lodge any tax returns without the client's signature on that document.
Great. So for those clients of mine who are listening, if you get an email from your accountant where all your documentation is attached, don't just leave it sitting in your inbox. You need to attend to it, sign it, scan it, and send it back. Don't just leave it sitting in the inbox, because all it does is delay everything else in the background as well, which makes it worse for everybody else.
And then also
Yeah.
what might happen is someone from my office may ring them up and give them a little kick and say, where's your tax returns? You haven't signed them and sent them back yet.
So here's another question that I have actually had from some other clients who have accountants. And so there's the partner of the firm, then there are senior accountants, and then there are junior accountants. And so they'll go into an accounting firm and they'll start dealing with the partner, but then the work starts getting filtered down, which I understand why that actually happens. But can you explain that to the listeners as well? Just what is the process once a set of books comes in?
Oh, depending on the size of the client, normally you're right. The business will liaise with the partner direct, or maybe more though a senior manager. The manager will obviously review the work or delegate it down to a lesser staff. And the reason that's done is basically for the cost. It's always cheaper for a younger accountant or not so experienced to be doing so much the hack work. But don't get me wrong, it always goes back to the manager or the partner for the partner to review.
Yep. Excellent. Now, let's talk about just quickly the relationship between bookkeeping and accounting. So there was a reason that you wanted Cocoon to come into the Larkin environment. So that relationship between the bookkeepers and the accountant, how valuable do you see that relationship?
Oh, it's extremely valuable because, the bookkeeper should have an open relationship with their accountant, and obviously also be the funnel between the client and the accountant. Now, if the bookkeeper realises when they're doing the books, they don't know how to code something, they don't know how to allocate something, straight away they get on the phone to their accountant and say, look, this is where things should be allocated in the accounts.
Yeah.
But more importantly, with bookkeepers in place, and especially now with computerised cloud-based system, is that everything at an instant, I can get access to that data. So, which comes back to, more importantly, not so much end of year after you're doing the tax returns, is probably in May or April before the end of the year to do certain things, which the main one is obviously tax planning for the client.
Yes. When do you actually want to see clients for tax planning? What part of the year is good for you as an accounting firm to see them, to give you and the client enough time to do what needs to be done to make that tax planning effective for their books?
Look, I would have said after they've done their third BAS, so maybe late April, early May, to obviously sit down and look at the files and start doing your tax planning. Because there's nothing worse than a client coming to you on the 25th of June and they've got a huge profit, and within 4 days you've got to try to immaculately turn the profit in down so we can minimise tax. So you've got to have at least 6 weeks of a period of time to do certain things. If you want to prepay your expenses, if you want to start putting extra money into superannuation, buy a certain plant and equipment for an instant asset write-off, these sort of things.
Okay. And here's another question from Webfield. We deal at Cocoon with a lot of smaller sole traders. So what do you see as being the threshold that they should start to think about moving from being a sole trader across to a company or a trust? What is that trigger would you suggest?
It depends what they want for asset protection. No matter what you do as a sole trader, you can personally be sued for something if something goes wrong. Whereas if you've got the corporate veil, they're suing the company. So depending on what if a tradie's out there is starting to buy a house and pay off a house, the worst thing he wants to do is have a job where for some reason he gets sued for something and it exposes his house. So I would have said, look, maybe after, let's say 18 months, if they're starting to turn over, say 100, 140 grand, that sort of money, I would then say yes. One, you're more concerned about the asset protection to the business owner.
Right. Okay. So that's more the trigger point than the actual dollar turnover value.
Yeah, correct. Because look, I'm not being, the way things are now, there's the difference between doing an individual sole trader. Let's say you're charging, for argument's sake, $9.90 to do a set of company accounts might be $2.2. The cost should be irrelevant. The client should be more concerned about personal exposure they may have when they're trading as an individual trader.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. I think that I've asked you enough questions. Thank you. Thank you. I know that this is not your comfort zone, so I do really appreciate you coming on today. I really do. So if we've got people out there at the moment who may be thinking about changing accountants or looking for a new accountant if they're new into the business, where can they find Larkin Partners?
I assume you go to all our socials these days, but I'll just hit the main one is Google Larkin Partners. It should come up on a website.
Yes.
I now believe we've got an Instagram page.
Yes.
And obviously LinkedIn too. So by all means, shoot us an email or give us or phone us in the office.
Yep. Yep. Or DMs. They work as well for the young folk out there. DMs are good too. I'll explain that to you later, Roger.
Good. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up for now. Just to let you know what our last Biz Basics will be on November the 16th. And Marie Vakakis is joining us from the Therapy Hub to talk about mental health in the workplace. I thought it was probably an appropriate topic based on the fact that hopefully around about then we're all returning to our workplaces and we're hoping to feel that lucky if we can, and fingers crossed. So Marie will be joining us to talk about mental health in the workplace. So feel free to so obviously send out any upfront questions if you want along the way, but you'll see some promo coming down the track. But in the meantime, Roger, thank you again for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Good.